542 BC. By 540 BC, Cyrus captured Elam and its capital Susa. Near the beginning of October, Cyrus fought the Battle of Opis on the Tigris, north of Babylon. Babylonian army was routed, and on October 10, Sippar, the town, was seized without a battle. And it is probable that Cyrus engaged in negotiations with the Babylonian generals to obtain a compromise. I am on slide number 38 on their part, and therefore avoid an armed confrontation. Nabonidus was staying in that city at that time, not in Babylon, so he fled to the capital Babylon, which he had not visited in years because he had Belshazzar as the king of the Babylon. 2 days later, on October 7, Gubarus troops entered Babylon, again without any resistance from Babylonian armies, and detained Nabonidus. Herodotus, the great historian, explains that to accomplish this feat, the Persians, using a basin dug earlier by the Babylonian queen Nitocris to protect Babylon against Median attacks, diverted the Euphrates River into a canal so that the water level dropped to the height of the middle of a man's thigh, which allowed the invading forces to march directly in the river through the riverbed to enter at night peacefully. And October 29, Cyrus himself entered the city of Babylon, detained Nabonidus. Cyrus incorporated Babylonian subnational entities into his empire. Slide number 40. After taking Babylon, Cyrus the Great proclaimed himself King of Babylon, King of Sumer and Akkad, King of the four corners of the world in the famous Cylinder. Cyrus the Great's dominions comprised the largest empire the world had ever seen. Largest empire the world had ever seen, around 539 BC. At the end of Cyrus' rule, a Achaemenid empire stretched from Asia Minor in the west to the northwestern areas of India in the east, near the Sindh, near Indus River of the Sindh, which is now in Pakistan. I'm on slide 41. The death of the Cyrus. The details of Cyrus' death vary by account. Account of the Herodotus says Cyrus met his fate in a fierce battle with Massageta, a tribe from the southern deserts of the steppe region of modern-day Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, whereas his biographer gives an alternative account. The Xenophon Cyropedia contradicts the others, claiming Cyrus died peacefully at his capital. Cyrus's remains were interred in his capital city of Pasargad, where today a limestone tomb built around 540-530 BC still exists, remained largely intact, and I was very fortunate to be there. And the photo on the right hand side on slide 41 is the photo I took. Unfortunately, at that time they have scaffolding because they were doing some repairing of the Cyrus's tomb. Slide number 42. Cuneiform evidence from Babylon proves Cyrus died around December 530 BC. Though the city itself is in ruins, the burial place of Cyrus the Great has remained largely intact, and the tomb has been partially restored to counter his natural deterioration over such a long time. According to Plutarch, his epitaph said, "O man, whoever you are and wherever you come from, for I know you will come, I am Cyrus, who won the Persians their empire." And beautiful last line, "Do not therefore begrudge me this bit of earth that covers my bones." Do not therefore begrudge me this bit of earth that covers my bones. When I was in India attending the conference in Navsari of Mirjirana Library, I met this famous poet, Parsi poet Kaki Daruwala, a member of the Indian National Commission for Minorities. His poem Pasarga de Sonnets he read at the conference, and I was very much touched. I just want to present to you his last words for him, for Cyrus's resting place. And I quote, "And prayer smoke upwards, profoundly intoned by muffled half-mast mobheads, who now and then, when flame turn ember, lapse into a drone, your words lay simple on the limestone face. Here I lie, Cyrus, king of the Persians. Stranger, don't grudge me this few feet of space." You know, this reminds me of the last king of the Mughal Empire who was a great poet, and he used Nam de Plume Zafar. And it says, "Kitna kam naseeb hai Zafar, dafna ke liye do gaz zameen dabi na mili uve yaar mein." He said for him, for his burial, he couldn't even get the 2 gaj of land because he was buried outside India. Just kind of a sidetrack from a guy who appreciates poetry, I guess. So now, on 44, reverence for Cyrus the Great in ancient and modern world, Europe, USA, and maybe even in Quran. So Cyrus's biography was written called Cyropedia, and the biography is written by none other than the Athenian gentleman, soldier, and student of Socrates, Xenophon of Athens. His title, Cyropedia, actually means Education of Cyrus. Aspect of it became a model for medieval writers of the genre known as Mirrors of Princes. Actually, in turn, it was a strong influence upon the most well-known but atypical of this, Machiavelli's The Prince, which was an important influence in the rejection of medieval political thinking and the development of modern politics. Xenophon's Cyropedia offers a glimpse of Cyrus's character. Source gives an artist's portrait of Cyrus as the ideal ruler and the best form of government. Xenophon, 431 to 355 BC, was not a contemporary of Cyrus. He was actually almost a century behind, and it is likely that at least some of the information about Persia was based on events that occurred at the later Achaemenian court. It is also possible that stories of the great king were recounted and embellished by court society, and that these are the basis of Xenophon's text. Whatever it may be, it comes to now slide 46. The Xenophon works narrates an entire lifetime of Cyrus, and so only the first of the 8 books is purely concerned with the education of Cyrus. The first book is devoted to Cyrus's descent, education, and his stay at the court of his maternal grandfather, Median Dynas Astyages. Books 2 through 7 cover Cyrus's life while still an important vassal of the Medes on his career towards becoming one of the most powerful rulers in the history of Middle Eastern empires. It is in this main part of the work that the character of Cyrus is often shown as an example of classical virtue. The last book, number 8, is a sketch of Cyrus's kingship and his views of monarchy. I have shown you that you can find out more about this in the internet on this website I have shown there. In classical antiquity, Cyropedia was considered the masterpiece of a very widely respected and studied author. Many famous writers ranked him among the best philosophers and historians. Amongst classical leaders, it was a favorite of Alexander the Great, or as we call it, Alexander the Accursed, and Julius Caesar. Many of the founding fathers of our United States of America, sought inspiration from the Cyropedia, especially our third president, Thomas Jefferson, who had not one but 2 personal copies of the book, which he thought, according to him, and I quote, which was a mandatory read for a statement. Now we come to another book. Using Xenophon's Cyropedia, Larry Hedrick